Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Where are we with the negotiations and with the Ukraine war? We are in the same spot. Politically or diplomatically, we are at the same spot we were on the 25th of February 2022, one day after the Russians decided to enter Ukraine with its military. Why do I say this? It's the same attitude. I'm going to analyze the Western perspective, Russian perspective, their aims, their goals before the Ukraine war started, right after Ukraine war started, and now after 3 years and a half, let's put it that way. It's not 3 years and a half, but anyways, 3 years and 2 months or so. So what's going on here? How did it all start? Russian version. Your NATO expansion brought troops, military infrastructure to our border, including so-called anti-air defense systems, air defense systems, to protect us from an Iranian strike. Those could be immediately calibrated on an offensive attack on Russia's military capabilities located in the western side of Russia. That means they shortened the reaction time of the Russians. So if these guys shoot towards the Russians from, let's say, Poland, Baltic states, Romania, they shorten the time of those missiles so the Russians cannot block. They have shortened time. The Russians kept telling them, back off. West did not back off. That's the reality. And they always, and I don't like the word always or never, but always told us that it is in the interest of peace, maintaining cooperation, stability, security, and we don't care what you say because you're weak. These were the arguments. Yes, Russia was weak, but Russia worked hard and became much stronger than it was in 1991, much stronger than it was in 1999, when Putin took over on the 31st of December. Putin warned them, Medvedev warned them, the media in Russia warned these guys, the politicians, the diplomats told the West, that's gonna end up badly. And they said, what's your problem? Go back over there and just plow the fields. And when we come to get your resources, you should be weak and ready. Well, how is that willing and available and willing? Well, Russia did not agree with that one. Why? Because the Russians still have not the Judeo-Christian culture, they have the Greco-Roman civilization still. Unlike the Western guys who were fooled in dropping that because the guys in charge of them told them it's better for them. So then it happened, the coup d'etat in 2014, where the neutrality of Ukraine was broken by some traitors inside Ukraine. That's how you call people who violently overthrow a legitimate, democratically government elected, of Viktor Yanukovych, plus the help of foreign agencies. That's called a traitor. Traitors in all countries on this planet are punished roughly. All right, so that's what it was until then. Then those guys in Kiev started doing bad stuff to the guys, the Russian, ethnic Russians in their culture, their language, their media outlets, the politicians, and that was not on the liking of Russia, including the fact that they said, you know what, we don't recognize the Kiev regime. And the Kiev regime sent tanks. The West helped. The Russians helped their buddies in the east of Ukraine. The West helped the Ukrainians or helped themselves attain their goals while pushing forward. All this time, the West was parroting the narrative that is the Russians, is those separatists in the east of Ukraine who are the problem, not the guys who overthrew the legitimate government. There were Minsk agreements, 2014, 2015. We had two guarantors of the Minsk agreements. At one point, even Poland was part of it. The guarantors were France and Germany. was Merkel and Hollande from France. They didn't care. They let Poroshenko, who signed it, it became international law, don't do anything since 2014 until Zelensky's time was promoted, pushed, doors open to fulfill the rest of the task, which is Russia. At the same time, the West said that's not Russia's problem, that's an internal problem of Ukraine. Zelensky said, I don't like anything about Minsk agreements, therefore they got to go. And then we got to 2014 when the Russians said, you guys restarted hitting our ethnic Russians in East Ukraine, we're gonna intervene as we said. And here we are. That point is the same point here. Russia has nothing to do to bring anything to defend its people in other countries that are oppressed or killed by the government, legitimate government, in this case Zelensky. That's how we're told. We were told that the Russians are imperialists, we're told the Russians are bad, they want to reshuffle the world order, whatever the world order was, and they should shut the hell up and plow their fields. That's it. The Russians had other ideas. And then the Russians invaded, and then the media machine started talking about, well, Putin, you must do this, Russia, you must do this, looking down on Russia, as they have been doing since 1991. And the Russians said, no, we want to be treated as equal. And that's an impossibility. Can be only one alpha wolf. And in this case is the United States of America. And Russia said, no, we don't want to challenge you like that, but we're not going to accept a treatment as a vassal state as Europe accepts your treatment. And the United States of America said, okay, bring it on. And Russia says, we will not accept NATO on our porch. And since then, remember, it was the Western leaders who continuously talked about the Russian military aggression, undefensible, unjustifiable. That means you can't justify why the Russians did that. And that was the propaganda, regimentation, narrative sold to us. Unprovoked, nobody, it's just the Russians are, imperialist and bad. Putin wants to reconstruct the Soviet Union. And they use that edited sentence that Putin said that fall of the Soviet Union was the biggest calamity of the 20th century. But the media, again, the enemy of the people, cut the beginning, cut the end, and left it as it is. And they used it to say over and over again that Putin wants to recreate Soviet Union. A boogeyman. Always a boogeyman. Why? Scare the imbeciles in your society and they will vote or they will follow your orders. Strong people, independent-minded people, get out of that cage. Why? Because they have courage. Courage is one of the Greco-Roman virtues. The first one is courage, not wisdom, not patience, not moderation, no, it is courage. Why? Without courage, you don't do squat. You just stay somewhere and you are inhibited. So inhibition. But inhibition, if you're a coward, means natural state, I guess. You're not inhibited, you just are. So what's going on after that? So they told us that the Russians, then Putin said that sentence at the beginning that imagine how many people would have to move and what the economics, how harsh times were in Soviet Union after that. These guys dismissed that. That's what he meant. But nevertheless, these guys sold you a lie by omission and interpretation. What happened next? Then the Westerners said, we're going to talk to you. If you do this, we're going to do this to you. And they started blackmailing and sanctioning Russia. In the same time, helping the enemy of Russia, which is, your friend that helps me. If you're my enemy, I'm going to fuck you up. But the Russians said, we're going to fight you. We're going to fight, and we are going to embarrass NATO. And that's exactly what they did. They embarrassed NATO for 3 years and 2 months. And this time, in the first 7 or 8 months, they said, media cannot talk with the Russians. Don't promote the Russian lying propaganda version. They banned the Russian media in Europe, some Russian media in Europe and other areas. They were lovers of free speech because they couldn't compete. They did not allow their citizens to listen to the other side. No, and let the citizens, if they're free, to make up their own minds. They didn't. They said, no, we're mommy and daddy, and we're going to decide what we allow you to hear. That's this consideration of the Russian people, of the Russia itself, the politicians. Basically, we're going to talk down on you. That's what they've been doing. And at one point, they didn't allow people to make contact with the Russians or go to the Russians. Why? They don't deserve. So they did a blackout of information coming from the Russians. Why? Because they were the gatekeepers of the truth. And that's exactly where we are right now. After 3 years, they didn't talk to Putin, remember? Scholz, no. Macron, no. The British Prime Minister, no. They did not want to talk to Putin. The Americans, no. For almost 3 years, they didn't speak with him. They didn't have contact. Right now, CBS goes and interviews Lavrov. So other media talk to Peskov. They are coming together. Why? Because they know they lost. But the problem is, it was a little bit of detente, like we're friends. Not friends, we're going to negotiate. The Americans, some Americans, the Europeans did not. What happened after that? They reverted the same threats. Macron, Starmer, and Scholz. You have to do this, otherwise we're going to do this. So remember, Russia gave a bloody nose to these guys. These guys agreed to talk to the Russians, not because they were winning, they were losing. They got themselves up, and now they are going back to 2022. Right there, they're going to tell these guys, no, we're not going to talk to you. You don't want peace? No, they want what they want, the unprovoked, unjustifiable attack, which is 4 reasons. 4 reasons minimum the Russians are non-negotiable. Why they entered Ukraine. Unjustifiable. The Russians have a lot of justifications. So what happened next? Now we are at the point where the losers are blaming the Russians for not wanting a ceasefire. On their terms. As that statement, the loser doesn't get to set the narrative or the conditions. The loser just takes it. And that's where we are. These guys, now they're talking to this, and they got their position from a losing position again to the arrogant position where they tell the Russians, if you don't do this, we're going to do this. If you don't do this, you've been losing. You have no aces in your sleeve. You have a trump somewhere that cannot trump Putin. Understand? And now we got to the ceasefire bullshit. The mass media continues saying, mass media, the operatives in the mainstream corporate media, they keep saying, the Russians don't want peace. Putin wants to continue war. This is the new narrative. The Russians just tag us along and we're just going to go and they're just going to take a whole Ukraine. Our lifestyle, our culture, civilization is at stake. Russians will attack us next. Be careful, get stronger. And then there was the ceasefire coming from Trump. Trump says, I propose a 30-day ceasefire on the energy infrastructure. Now, what I give you right now are maybe hundreds of articles I read all these 3 years regarding the issue, including the last ones in the past week and a half or maybe 2 weeks where I'm right now with the conversation. The 30-day ceasefire. The Russia says, we're okay, like adults. We're okay with that in principle. But obviously, you have to look at details. First, not as you go. The other side was, no, we're ready for the 30-day ceasefire. They were not ready. They used this just to paint the Russians again as, see, it's a blame game as you had in kindergarten or until the, let's say, 4th grade. Beyond 4th grade, it becomes idiotic. The blame game. This is what's going on right now. And how is it? 30-day. Russian says, yeah, in principle, we're okay. That's beyond the 4th grade, okay? In principle, we're okay. But we have to, there's a lot of details we have to discuss. The mass media and Zelensky showed up. No, see, that's evidence the Russians don't. That's not evidence of anything. They said yes, but as adults, not as children, black and white, good and evil, Jesus and Satan. It's not like that. It's in between, okay? There's certain things, that gray area. We have to discuss them before we accept. And what happened after that? The Russians said, okay, we're going to have it like that. They broke it. I think both of them broke it. But we're going to go beyond that. They both blame game. Then the Russians said, you know what? During the Easter, we're going to have a truce. We say we're going to stop fighting. But I hope they do the same thing, but if they shoot at us, we're gonna fight back. The Ukrainians, instead of saying, yes, okay, what are the details? No shooting for 2 days? It was not about 30 days, it was 2 days. And the Ukrainians, instead of saying, yeah, let's try this one. It's 2 days. 2 days. Let's go little by little. You're going to go 30 days, and then after 2 days, you realize that it is not workable. And then you point fingers. See, that's the evidence. The Russians don't want peace. The Ukrainians did not agree to that. The Americans, like the media, was looking at that like a idiotic thing. Whatever it was, whatever the political implications were in Putin's brain and the Russian propaganda, it was 2 days of no ceasefire. 2 days, an attempt, it could have been done versus 30. Then again, after that, again, these guys, Putin doesn't want a peace, doesn't want to negotiate, doesn't want a ceasefire. And then Putin said, you know what, how about we have, this is where we are in the past 3 days. Putin said, let's have a ceasefire. We're going to have a truce, a ceasefire for the Victory Day. That is, from the 8th until 10, of May. When they got the celebrations, beating the Nazis in the Second World War, Soviet Union, 80 years since then. Okay, fantastic. Instead of saying, okay, that's nice, they said, how about we have it from now? Don't we wait? They didn't say yes. Zelensky, this is Zelensky. Zelensky is a smart guy, supposedly. Why? Media portrays him as such. He's a made-up guy. It's a public relations company, not only that promotes this guy. That's what it is. That's what it is. I'm not saying that's not everywhere, but Zelensky right now has an army of those kind of people. And you know who said that? I think it was Zaluzny who said that. I think in July 2022, when he was caught about something, he said something. Anyway, so what's going on? After Putin said, let's have this truth ceasefire for 2 days. Will Ukrainians honor it? The Ukrainians, instead of saying, they didn't say yes. They said, how about we start today? And everybody went, yeah, how about the 30-day ceasefire? No. And then the Americans came. Again, Americans who were losing, now they come to impose again. They still have that mentality. I'm talking about the guys in charge, not the regular American. They still have the mentality of looking down, of arrogance. We're somehow better. But you're losing. But somehow they think that they come and again look at Russia like, I'm losing my patience with you, Trump, to Russia. You're losing over there. Shut the fuck up. Remember, it's the final offer. If not, I'm going to just wash my hand. I'm going to walk away. You're going to walk away, go back in the trenches where you've been losing for 2 years and 2 months, 3 years and 2 months. Then what happened next? The Americans came with a communique. Instead of saying, yes, that's fantastic, 2 days of ceasefire during the celebrations, Victory Day, that's excellent. They didn't say that. They say, they dismissed this with this. We're thinking about permanent ceasefire. We're thinking about stopping the war. We're thinking of stopping you. Again, looking down, and the Russians are like, let's remember, we are in Ukraine because of you. So don't tell me I should stop. You are the one who should stop first. And you're losing, and you're still talking down. The White House said, we're thinking of a permanent, we don't think about 2 days truth. Little by little increments, and besides, again, they dismissed the Russians 2-day or proposal of Victory Day. We are back where we were before. You have Macron threatening the Russians again. You have Starmer with Macron talking shit. You have the possible new Chancellor Merz of Germany coming and saying we're going to do this. Pistorius, the defense ministry, still the next foreign minister of Germany, the same. The next one, Baerbock is coming. This guy, the conservative. if it's not an alternative for Deutschland kind of conservative, there's no conservative. That's another globalist. Globalists kept the power as they kept it in Canada as well with the elections. So what's going on? Again, these guys talk to Putin the way they talked in March, April, May, until about October 2022. They're back into they think they are winning. Again, these guys are delusional. These guys are delusions. And you know what the Russians are doing? They say like this. We can negotiate. We are open to negotiations. The war will continue while we negotiate with you. And we're going to impose some terms because we are the winners and you are the losers. And they do what they do best, which is using logic and our Greco-Roman civilization's points. They're not the other culture, Judeo-Christian culture, where the burning bush or, I don't know, the splitting of the sea works. Okay? They work on a different dimension. We passed that about 2,450 years, in the age of Plato, Socrates, and Aristotle, and many other, Archimedes, and so on. Those guys, and not only, told us that Zeus's thunderbolt is not Zeus's. It's just a natural occurrence due to the, it's a physical, manifestation of nature. That's all, of nature. We knew this since then, and these guys still believe in a cat crossing in front of you being the devil. And some of them still believe that. Look at them. Didn't go to see in Vatican the Pope. Anyway, you have to do what you need to do. This is where we are. We are full circle to the same point. The problem is people die in Ukraine, militaries are fighting one another, and some people make a lot of money in the West. It's just the same thing. They found a way to start talking again shit to Russia and Putin and the guys in charge. After 3 years of trying to do everything they could to kneel Russia, economically, militarily, politically, culturally, and they failed. As I said, they will not stop. This is going to be maybe a little armistice. Why? Russia wants clearly NATO back off. That is the root cause. That is actually a manifestation of the imperialistic, like Bernie Sanders, okay, imperialistic worldview and soul of some Westerners. That's the reality. They can't let go. They have to have vassal states. They have to have colonies. Otherwise they die. Not the United States of America. Almost each and every European country that you call now power, Germany, France, and Great Britain, let's put Italy. If you leave them alone, they will be starving in no time. They will become a third-rated country. They have no fucking resources to be where they are. How do you think they hold their economies? How do you think they hold it? To business? But if you let Russia or United States of America are the only ones, two countries that can live on their own if anything else collapses. Germany and these guys are going to go back to caves. The Brits are going to be dying fishing, I don't know what exactly. And that's it. They're going to eat grass, 3 cows, and get water from the rain. That's all they got. I'm just exaggerating, obviously. So they are losing the power, but they're delusional in thinking that they're still matter. They don't, but mentality. So NATO is a manifestation of the military arm of the globalist. They want to have something done in that country. They use NATO as being the military force. Like you send the police. You want to make sure you get Emil's whatever you want. You have a judge, sign an order, and the police will come and get it. And who's the judge? It's them. Who's the police? Is theirs. Who's Emil? A nice guy. All right. Thank you very much for being with me again today. We're back. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.